Hello and welcome to this episode of the Ghost City Tours podcast. I'm Stephanie, joined here with Tim.
Hey everybody, how you doing?
And today we have our guest, Melisa Kennedy, and she is joining us from ParaHouse Magazine.
Yeah, Melisa, I really appreciate you joining us here on the Ghost City podcast. I'll be honest, I didn't really know a lot about you or what you're doing. And I always like meeting people who, are out there that I don't know about, because that just means that I still have more people to meet. And that's the best part of this job, right, Stephanie?
It is.
She's full of shit. She doesn't believe that at all. She hates people. But we are happy that you are here today. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What do you do? How did you end up where you're at? Let's dive into this.
Well, first, let me thank you for having me on your show.
Absolutely, you're
this
welcome.
is a great opportunity, and I'm really looking forward to all of the things that we're doing with Ghost City Tours, as well as some future potential projects that we've got in the works. But ParaHouse Magazine, yeah, I'm the publisher, the editor-in-chief, and it's something that comes out every 2 months. It's a bi-monthly magazine, and it focuses primarily on paranormal. So we have everything from ghost hunting to UFOs, Bigfoot, cryptids. We also have witchcraft. We also have magical and ancient mysteries, unsolved mysteries, occult, mystical type topics. We typically highlight somebody from each genre,
right,
in our magazine. So, and it's worldwide. So we get people, gosh, we've had people from the UK, Germany, Canada, of course, United States.
Right.
And so we focus on all of these different genres, which is why we call it ParaHouse, because it literally houses all of these different topics. And it's really one of the few, if not the only magazine that touches on all of these subject matters every single issue, not just at Halloween time. it's every issue.
So why are you doing this? Why is this so important to you?
Well, I actually am a former school teacher. And so education is really, really important to me. And the truth is very important to me.
Yes.
Being a Scorpio that I am a truth seeker, and I always have been. And I love investigative journalism. I love to write. I love to go against the grain, so to speak, and look for things that other people maybe haven't discovered.
Right.
Or perhaps put a different spin on what's out there. And so for me, it's just looking under that rock, looking to find the hidden meanings behind something, or the truth that maybe has been buried for a long time. So for me, it's just exposing and educating the public as to what other things we don't know or haven't been taught.
Yeah. And when it comes to the paranormal, I think, the interesting thing about truth is when we're touching on anything paranormal, it's like there's two truths, right? There is the truth that we can back up, because we can go and look at, who died in this house, what happened in this house, whatever you might be thinking of you need to do for the paranormal, your investigation or whatever. We can do that. But then there's this other truth that I don't think we will ever figure out what that truth is. And that is like the mystical, and I don't mean it in like a mysticism sense, but like that side of the paranormal. It's like we're chasing answers that I don't think we're ever going to know the answers to until it's our turn to join them. And I think that's one of the things that makes paranormal so fun, is because if you are a truth seeker, you can find that truth. But then that you can still continue to be a truth seeker in a way that you're probably going to be seeking that truth for the entirety of your life. And it's like the thrill of the chase. Seriously, that's one of the fun things for me.
It's a carrot that you're always chasing after.
It's a carrot. And then the best part is, and I'm sure that you'll agree with me, if you're, doing the investigative, aspect of this, most facts in the paranormal world are complete bullshit. Even like the history side of things and stuff. There are so many things out there being said about, hauntings and ghosts and this place and that place, and, perpetuated by these TV shows. And there's so much just nonsense in our industry right now. Maybe that's why it's hard for people to take it seriously,
And I agree with you. A lot of it is faked for entertainment value. And that probably drives me the most crazy
Yeah.
because, and it's the same thing in the UFO world as well, because the more, say, Hollywood makes fun of or does things in a fictitious way,
Right.
the less credibility those of us that are actually doing the work to bring validity to the subject matters, it makes our job a lot harder.
Oh, it drives me insane. Like the worst one, and everybody knows here that even though I guess I'm like the ghost guy or whatever, if I had to pick one of these to like study forever, it would actually be Bigfoot, because I am convinced that they are real. But the Bigfoot people get it the worst. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, because what they'll do is they'll go put these obvious meth heads in front of a camera and say, "Tell me about your Bigfoot experience." And this person's like, "Well, that damn dear Bigfoot came up here and took my sister my strawberry pie, and then I can't find my pipe. I know that Bigfoot took it." I mean, of course, like nobody's going to take them seriously, right. But these are real things, as you know, and you cover in your magazine. These are real things, but it's like the mainstream media or whatever you want to call them. I don't know. They attach themselves to just the most moronic aspects of our community. So we need people like you to help try to bring some legitimacy to what we're doing, because there's a lot of people out there that are just idiots. I'm sorry, I'm going to keep ranting. So I'm going to stop.
No, you're absolutely correct. And it for those of us that take this very seriously and do it full time, full time as a job, as a living, it is very difficult. And so I guess in some ways I'm trying to counteract a lot of the absurdity that's in the community, and really truly bring education to the public on these various matters. And so, yes, I do take it very seriously. I have fun with it too, of course. I mean, you have to have some fun. But yes, it's very serious to me. I have done some very famous paranormal investigations that nobody even knows that I did. And I can actually talk about that today if you would like to, because the person that I did some things for has since passed. Okay. So I feel like out of respect for them, I waited to really dive into that until after this person is no longer with us. So
did you ghost hunt Val Kilmer's house? What's going on here?
I want to know. No. We got to dive in. Let's just dive. We're not tiptoeing here. Dive in.
All right.
Spill the beans.
All right. I actually own a property in Georgia. I live in Florida, but I also have a property in Georgia, and it happens to be right next door to former President Jimmy Carter.
Oh.
And so I was asked by the Carter family to do a paranormal investigation of the house that he and the First Lady were first married and lived in.
No kidding.
And it is still owned by the Jimmy Carter family. And they, in fact, put on a yearly haunted house in this abandoned property. And it's known throughout Plains, Georgia, as a haunted house. It's called the Plains Haunted House. So when I bought this property back in 2020, I was asked by the Carter family to actually go, and I did a 5-night investigation.
Wow.
There. And I was one of the very few people that were actually allowed to go do this.
So was this when the former president was still alive? Like you were ghost hunting with him or just on the property?
No, not with him. No, not with him.
Because I imagine he would have been one of those, the only ghost is the Holy Ghost kind of people. Yeah. But maybe I'm not right in that.
Well, now keep in mind, he was the first president to actually recognize and say that he saw a UFO.
That's true. Actually, one of my old friends, his name's Tobias, tried to do a documentary on that whole thing. I don't know how that ever turned out. Well,
things are not always as they seem on mainstream media. I'll just say that.
You don't say.
Yeah.
What a revelation here.
I was totally convinced that
I'll just put that out there.
No, I was convinced that I was going to get disappeared any minute now and sent to El Salvador. I was convinced of that because of the media.
Recently?
Yeah, so I'm glad to hear that not everything in the media is true.
Do you think you were like an illegal alien or something?
No, I'm being a jerk. making fun of.
I'm just curious
stuff.
as to why.
No, I'm not being deported that I know of. It's like, where'd James go? He's not a hi, says he. So, when you're doing this research, and by the way, I support what you're doing 100%. Not that you need my support, but we saw this at Ghost City Tour. So I started Ghost City back in 2012, and at the time, we were only in Savannah. But one of the things that I noticed was, as somebody who loves history myself, like I actually got into ghosts because of the Civil War in Gettysburg. Funny enough, but I wanted to make a company where, we did the research. We went to the historical societies. We talked to people. We actually did a lot of these investigations ourselves, and that's how we put together the initial tours. I had no idea the amount of hate and abuse I was going to take online simply for telling the truth about a lot of these haunted locations. Like this, I don't want people to go look for it, but I don't care. Go look for it. I mean, some of the shit that was said about me online was ridiculous, and all we were doing was a company that was trying to tell the truth about these hauntings, and it was a bizarre thing to have like an entire community of people hate your guts just for saying, nah, well, you that story you're telling isn't exactly right. Here's the truth, and here's the documents to back it up. It was bizarre. And do you encounter that in this paranormal community?
I have some, but actually I've been lucky, I guess. I haven't really encountered a lot of that. Mm-hmm. The people in Plains actually know and will tell you to your face that house is haunted.
Right.
So they asked me to do that.
Right.
And so it wasn't unwelcomed. It was more welcomed. And some of the findings that I had during that investigation, I shared with the Carter family, mm-hmm. and they could not believe some of the things I was telling them, because there was no way that I would have known some of those things I said to them, things that they knew were not public knowledge. Mm-hmm. And so it was really neat for them, because it gave them some validity from their experiences. And then the experiences that I had, I was not really anticipating, because I had no prior knowledge
right.
of this house or anything, because it really hasn't been written about. Yeah. It's very hard to find that much information about it, because not that many people have done it. Mm-hmm. And I too had wanted to start a ghost tour company. In fact, I own like the Plains Ghost Tours. Like I own that name, so to speak. And I was trying to start kind of a ghost tour thing there in Plains. That was actually met with a little bit of a resistance. I will say that. So I didn't actually pursue it. I did some other things instead. But the city of Plains, I will say the paranormal activity there is off the charts.
What do you think that's tied to? Why do you think that? Because most people, I mean, if it wasn't for the former president, nobody would have any clue what that town even is.
I agree with you. I agree with you on that.
So where do you think all these the paranormal?
Well, you have Civil War activity in that area. You have a lot of Native American burial grounds in that area. You have ley lines in that area. You have some water that's running underground in that area. There's a lot of stuff in that area that could contribute to paranormal activity. Right. I have had both spirit apparitions, whatever you want to call them. And my husband and I have actually had not one, not two, but 3 UFO sightings there in Plains.
Really?
And, oh, yeah, very much so. And it was not anything like probably most people have had. Right. One of them was actually at the Plains Cemetery, where the Carter family is buried. And we were actually, it's kind of funny. We were actually the only 2 brave souls in the entire town that agreed to stay in the cemetery after dark during the Jimmy Carter Foundation haunted house event, which was just about 100 yards from the cemetery. They wanted to take the guests on a haunted hayride through the cemetery and back to the house. Well, they asked for volunteers to stay in the cemetery to scare people as they went by.
Right.
We were the only 2 people in town that were willing to do that.
Right.
And so it was after dark. It was in October, late October. It was around 9:15 The very last haunted hay ride just had gone by a few minutes prior, and we scared it. We jumped out behind tombstones and all this, and which was fun. But it was starting to get kind of overcast, and there was a lot of clouds and stuff in the sky. And so my husband started to walk over towards me because we were getting ready to leave. And we stood there, and all of a sudden we saw this beam of light. It was a UFO that came out of nowhere above the tree line and parted the clouds and took off at warp speed. I mean, right over our heads. It was unbelievable. So unbelievable.
So what do you think these things are? These UFOs? Like do you, are you on the camp or in the camp of, maybe it's government or the little green men thing?
I don't think that was government. No, right. I don't think that was government. There are UFOs that are government. They've reverse engineered it, but no, this particular one was definitely not. It actually parted the clouds and went straight over our heads, over the cemetery, in just a matter of 2 seconds. It was very, very fast. We went down to the haunted house and asked if anybody saw what we just saw. And of course, nobody did because they weren't looking up. They were busy doing the haunted house. But there were a group of deer hunters that were there that were volunteering to do the haunted hayride. And they heard us talking, and they came over. They were like, "So is this what you saw?" They explained exactly what we saw. And they had seen it the week prior when they were out hunting. So
what goes through your head when you're in the middle of the woods in a cemetery and you see a UFO over your head? Because I don't know what I would do. I think I would have maybe a little oh shit.
It was exhilarating. It was definitely not something we were expecting. I mean, we were out there doing a haunted house of it.
Yeah.
And so it took us off guard for sure. It was not my first UFO experience, however. I was living in Phoenix, Arizona when the Phoenix Lights actually happened in 1997. I was there. I was a school teacher on an Indian reservation.
Okay.
And so I was living in Phoenix. Actually, I was in West Phoenix on Indian School Road. And I saw the entire Phoenix Lights UFO event happen. It was really wild. It was unlike anything because it was so massive. It was so huge.
Yeah.
And I remember getting on the phone and calling my grandmother back in West Virginia. I was like, Mama, you're not going to believe what I just saw. I don't know what this is. I don't know what it means, but if it's the end of the world, I love you. And I was like, I don't know what this was. I didn't, it was my first time. I was 22 years old. I mean, I didn't even know what I was seeing really, but yeah, so it's not my first encounter. I've had several.
I've only had one, and I'm not saying. I mean, it was a UFO, as in I could not identify it. It was flying. It was actually similar to the Phoenix Lights, but it happened in right outside of, not too far from Myrtle Beach. There's a town, I think we're in Georgetown, South Carolina, and my buddy and I, we had just left the gas station. We started to see these lights, and what was weird about them is they would come on one by one. One and then one and then one, but by the time it was done, it was like the two sides of a triangle, and they were all moving. And this thing was huge. I don't want to guess how big it was, but I mean, it was bigger than any plane I've ever seen. And we kind of looked at each other. We made a joke like, "Holy shit, it's a fucking UFO!" But then we're like, "Nah, it can't be a UFO." But I mean, I don't know. That was my only experience with UFOs.
That does kind of sound like the Phoenix Lights, actually. Yeah, that does sound similar.
And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, when it comes to this whole UFO thing, I am not a believer in UFOs in the sense of these are interplanetary species. I'm not on board with that.
What do you think they are?
One, it could be all in our heads, but so my idea is actually even crazier. I actually think if there are UFOs and they're not humans and all this stuff, I actually think that they're probably interdimensional, right? Wouldn't that make a lot more sense? Then don't you think if there was an advanced civilization, they might be able to figure out how to leap between dimensions faster? Because we know that's a real thing. Wouldn't that be easier to do as a civilization than traveling, thousands and tens of thousands of light years and all this stuff? But maybe they figure out wormholes. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm rambling already. But
if they're interdimensional, they could still be intergalactic. It's one and the same.
Yeah. I mean,
time and space doesn't exist.
Touche. But you know what I'm getting at though, is in like, you know, a lot of people think like, oh, they're in, you know, they're living in Uranus. No, that's a bad dad joke at first thing in the morning. And then okay, Mars, they're coming here from Mars, right? That has been a thought in people's heads in the past, at least. I don't think that that's the case. If it is, my think is, I think they're just interdimensional.
Yeah.
But Bigfoot are not interdimensional, by the way. Now that I brought that up, people need to quit saying that shit. Stop it.
I think we're more like, I envision us more like we're like an ant farm on Earth. And then like, they're just the ones controlling the ant farm.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Well, they need to start picking better queens, first of all, if that's what's going on here. So what is your thought on the whole UFO phenomena? Like, you know, as somebody who's experienced it a couple of times and has definitely done more research into it than I have. So,
well, I'm a ufologist. I own UFO Con, which is a convention, and I own that. And I've had several events. I had some guys from Ancient Aliens come to my last UFO Con in Orlando. I had Nick Pope, and he's the British guy. If you ever watch Ancient Aliens, Nick Pope is pretty awesome. And I had the pleasure of not only having him at my convention, but he came and spent about 3 hours at my house. Afterwards, we sat around, we drank beer. It was great.
Nice.
And and so, you know, I've been involved in the UFO community for about 25 years. And yeah, there's a lot of wrong information out there. Absolutely. But I'm not ready to make any sort of statement where I would say they're all intergalactic or they're all interdimensional or this or that, because I think there's still too many things that are unknown.
Yeah.
And so it's a field of study that's still evolving. And until we get a little bit more disclosure, and I mean like the real disclosure, not the BS that they've been telling us since 1947. I think it's a little premature to make any sort of general statement as far as are they real or not. I know what I saw with my own eyes. I know what I've experienced. By no means would I ever say something that was not true, because I would never, ever put my reputation on the line like that, because once your reputation is ruined, you never get it back. Right. And so if I have witnessed something and I talk about it, it's because it happened. And I know what I saw. I know what I've done. I know what I have felt. And I can't say that for anybody else because I wasn't there.
That's true.
I can only speak for my own experiences, and I can only stand up and speak the truth about my experiences. Right. The other ones are hearsay unless there's evidence of video or film or photos or something like that, which we do have of the Phoenix Lights, which is pretty awesome. There were some photographs of the Phoenix Lights, and yeah, there it is. And there's no disputing it. And I remember the very next morning getting the newspaper, the Phoenix newspaper, and all over the newspaper, right on the front page, they were talking about, UFO over Phoenix. Well, about 4 hours later, they retracted all of that. And then they tried to say, oh, it was this, oh, it was that. But those of us that saw it, and there was thousands of us that saw it, right? We know what we saw.
Yeah, and it wasn't a military exercise.
No, because my sister-in-law
it's a weather
at the
balloon.
time, my sister-in-law at the time actually was in the Air Force, and she was there stationed at Luke. And no, it was not that.
So I think for me, the thing that grabs me the most is that there are a lot of accounts in ancient history of these things in the sky. Because today we can say it's a plane, it's the government, it's some secret spy program, it's this or it's that. But when they're running around, living in huts in the desert, 3,000 years ago, and they're reporting these things and it's written down, to me that gives that actually is more credible to me than a lot of the stuff you see today, because these people had no idea what a plane was or any of this stuff. So if they're saying that they're seeing it, to me that's where it's like, okay, I can get on board with the idea that there's some weird shit happening, but it's
that, and then also like account to account. Like we didn't have social media back then, where everyone could share their images and stories.
Yeah, but then even today, there's some of it, and by the way, I'm not making fun of UFO people at all, because I'm on board with the idea that there are unidentified flying objects. The only thing that I ever push back on is this idea of that they're coming from other planets and stuff. I don't know. I would love for them to be coming from other planets, honestly. But there's some of this stuff that, like, so the abduction thing, right? Mm-hmm. I hesitate to like make fun of these people because I could be wrong, right? But in my head, these stories are just so fantastical, and just like, you know, the idea of like being taken up into a spaceship, and we all know the stories about, you know, the probing and all this stuff. That's where it. And by the way, I obviously don't know if that is true or not, but that's one of the aspects of the whole UFO thing that just seems so absurd. That it just makes it more unbelievable for me. Have you dealt with the abduction thing and like, you know, anything I've
had a lot of people. Yeah, I've had a lot of people approach me that have said that they were abducted or they've had these experiences. And again, you know, I try to take people at their face value.
Right.
Because I wasn't there. I don't know. You know, it wasn't something that I experienced. Mm-hmm. I do happen to have a friend, and I'm not going to mention his name, but I do have a friend that was a police officer in the UK, and he has and I know him really well, so he has a very credible story that I'm like you, kind of have been skeptical about a lot of that. But when it came from him and he gave me the details that he did, I was like, wow, okay, well, I'm not going to close the chapter on this one way or another because I don't know. I mean, it is quite possible. And of course, you know, there's this whole, you know, conspiracy theory that we have alien bases, you know, underground and tunnels.
Oh, yeah, the reptilian people.
Part of the Area 51, Area 52. I've actually been out there. I've been to Roswell. I've spent several days there. And so, you know, I don't put anything past anything at this point.
Right.
I mean, we are starting to see a lot of the lies that have been told us for the last 55, 65 years unravel. And what they have told us is a bunch of hogwashes now. We're now finding out the truth.
Who is they?
So the media.
Yeah.
Mainstream media.
The government.
They've lied. Yeah, the government, the media, they've lied to us about so many things that why believe the stories that the UFOs are fake and aliens are not real. And I mean, they've told us that forever.
Oh,
but
I take every opportunity I can to bash the government. Yeah, some of this stuff, I mean, and by the way, I don't think we're ever going to get the truth about a lot of this stuff, like the UFO stuff, for example. You know, we all know that in the past couple of weeks, the government released these documents on, you know, JFK, RFK was just the other day. And what we're finding out is that essentially there's nothing there. Like, you know, tens of thousands of pages. And it's like, it doesn't really tell you anything. And all these people are disappointed. You know, these people were really hoping to find out, you know, Oswald didn't do it or something, you know, there'd be something in there. And then it's just, so I think that if the government does know stuff, my point with this is I'm one of those people that thinks the government actually probably killed JFK. Like, I think but you'll never find that. Right. But the government now, you know, what is it? Are we now 60 years later, 50 years later? Oh no, now we're telling you the truth. And here you go. Here's all this stuff. And there's nothing in there. So I'm willing to bet that if, you know, the government, whatever they know about UFOs and all this stuff, Area 51, whatever may or may not have happened there, we will never know the truth. No matter what they say. And don't believe what they say, because it's probably going to be a lie. Anyways, sorry.
Well, I mean, the way you're right. I mean, the way I look at it, if they admit that they've been lying, then
yeah, there's no confidence.
Why would anybody believe anything they say going forward?
Right.
So they've put themselves in an unwinnable situation.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's very unwinnable because let's say like all these conspiracy theories, like their wildest dreams are actually true, and we do have, you know, the little gray men or the little green men or whatever on ice somewhere, and the government is like, okay, everybody, we've been telling you some shit for a long time. These things are actually real. Do you actually want that to happen? Like, so like even you, like as the ufologist, like, would you actually really want that to happen? Because can you imagine the chaos worldwide?
Well, that's right.
So if that is true, isn't it kind of maybe better if it's kept under wraps?
Not everybody is awake.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Well, we have a lot of the population that's still asleep
Right.
or has their head in the sand. And so for some, yeah, a revelation like that would probably be earth shattering and it would be chaos.
Yeah.
For the rest of us, we'd be like, yeah, we already know that. We've been studying it for 25 years.
Right.
So, depending on which side of the coin you're on, it could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing. Just depends, I guess, on if they ever do it.
So even me, like I think I would be one of those people that would be like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is the biggest discovery in human history. I think that I would be able to do that. But even then, I think I would still be like, holy shit. Then you start questioning everything, right?
It'd be so exciting.
It would
be like the door has opened.
It would
the portal
be, but
has
it would be
opened.
like, it would be worse than like the Pope dying.
That's just a normal occurrence.
For,
it happens like every
people.
12 years.
I know, but I don't know. There's a part of me, I do think the government should always be honest with its people. This is one of those situations where I'm like, if they do have little gray people, maybe you should just not tell everybody. Not yet anyways.
They're at the Vatican if you want to know.
Oh, that's true. So the other thing, so you brought up, not to move on from UFOs a little bit, but I don't know what else to ask about UFOs if I'm being honest. But, another thing that you brought up that you guys write about sometimes is Bigfoot, right? And that's like the number one for me because I am convinced that they are a living creature, a living animal. I'm pretty sure I've saw one. If I always tell people if it was not a Bigfoot, I don't know what the hell it was. Because it had hands. I actually just told this story the other day. Seriously, like I saw hands. Like what else has hands like that? But how long have you been interested in the phenomena like the cryptozoology side of things? Bigfoot, the Yeti,
the Rugaloo,
Umkele Umbembe, who is supposed to be a dinosaur in the Congo. Which, by the way, I almost want that one to be as real as much as I do. I want Bigfoot to be real.
Well, I was born and raised in West Virginia. We have more cryptids there than any other state in the union. So,
what part of West Virginia?
I actually grew up in north central West Virginia in the Bridgeport-Clarksburg area, about 20 miles from Flatwoods. So, if you know about the Flatwoods Monster, that's a big part of my childhood. So,
I'm actually from that area, but just a little bit north of you. So,
Morgantown,
a little bit north of that. So, I'm actually from Pennsylvania. But right on the other side of the barrel. So I spent a lot of time in West Virginia because growing up in Pennsylvania, I was a whitewater rafting guide. So so we'd come down to the, run the Cheat River all the time, all that kind of stuff down in your area. We spent a lot of times, going to, Cooper's Rock, doing some rock climbing.
Oh yeah.
Going down the Cheat Lake.
Cooper's Rock is great.
Yeah. We would go down to, Trans-Allegheny down there in Weston, which we actually just talked about in the last episode. So I'm actually pretty damn familiar with your area.
Awesome. I love that. Well, yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
We have a lot to talk about then, but yeah, I mean, just having grown up in West Virginia, I had a lot of experiences as a kid that I couldn't understand or didn't understand and heard a lot of stories. And Flatwoods, like I said, was a hop, skip, and a jump away from my house, and spent a lot of time down in that area. And then, of course, you have Mothman, and you have a lot of other cryptids.
How did I forget about Mothman there for a second? So I think most people know what Mothman is, right? I think most people do. I'm willing to bet most people have never heard of the Flatwoods Monster before. So can you give us a brief, like what the hell is the Flatwoods Monster?
Oh,
and
absolutely.
Are there more of them?
Is there just one?
Well, it goes back to the 1950s, where a UFO crash happened in Flatwoods, West Virginia. And there were some school-age boys that were outside at the time, and they saw the crash happen, and they walked over towards the site, and they saw this, and I wish I could get it down, but it's clear on top of my bookcase, but I actually have a statue of the Flatwoods Monster that was given to me. But it has a diamond head type shape, but I think it's more like a cape, like a jacket, uniform type of thing. But the creature was about 7-8 foot tall. It was pretty large that these boys saw. They described it. That came out of this UFO. It was in the woods. Project Blue Book, the guys from Project Blue Book came to Flatwoods, investigated. The boys had radiation burns on them, and it was just this whole ordeal that really put Flatwoods on the map as far as the UFO community. But there's been some speculation, was it really a UFO? Was it an interdimensional type thing? Was the Flatwoods Monster an owl? I've heard some crazy stories, but the boys were pretty adamant. And I believe last time I checked, there was still one of those boys still alive. And he's still to this day even says that what he saw is what he saw. But it's an interesting story. They have a cute little museum there in that town that's really, really good, actually. And they have all the newspaper articles. They have lots of research on it, lots of pictures and things like that, drawings and things. Really interesting. So if anybody's ever in the area, I strongly suggest going to the Flatwoods Monster Museum. But it's neat. Yeah, it's a neat story. And then a little bit closer to my house, where my grandmother's house is the Grafton Monster. And the Grafton Monster was living or seen around the railroad tracks. He was a kind of a four-legged creature, but he could stand up. Right. And he was like a big, burly kind of, I don't know.
Oh my God. Are we getting into like Dogman?
No, kind of like a Bigfoot, but on all fours.
Right.
So there's a lot of cryptids, a lot of stories in the area, a lot of Bigfoot sightings.
Yep. I'm glad we'll bring it back around. Yeah. There's been a lot of not a lot of people realize this, because when you think of Bigfoot, you think of, at least here in the United States, you think, and rightfully so, Washington, Oregon, California. But there's right there in the Appalachians, most of West Virginia. And then when you get up into Pennsylvania, it becomes like the Chestnut Ridge. And I actually think it's the Chestnut Ridge down into West Virginia as well.
Yes.
That area. And by the way, by extension, that also includes like that park there in Ohio. What was it called? Salt Fork, I think, park, where all the Bigfoot sightings in Ohio. Like all these are kind of in the same area. And it's like a really big Bigfoot hotspot, the entire, area. And I know in West Virginia, there's Bigfoot sightings all the time. I remember growing up, even in Pennsylvania, kids would come into school and claim that they, my dad saw and they would all get made fun of, which is why the legitimate Bigfoot sightings are so incredibly underreported.
Yes.
But no, Bigfoot, I think that could be the next cryptid that we prove is actually a legit, real animal. With the technology that we have, I don't know if you guys follow like Matt Moneymaker or any of those guys, but they're talking about how they're trying to, talk with AI scientists to try to help analyze data, weather patterns of vegetation, all these things to really help us narrow in on where Bigfoot might be at any given time. So I think that's terribly exciting. And I want to be the guy to do it, by the way.
Using AI?
Using anything. I just want to be the guy that finds Bigfoot. I want to make my parents proud.
We can do that. We can help you do that.
Like, I think if there's one thing I could do in life that they would finally be proud of me, it'd be like, oh, Tim was the guy who, made friends with Bigfoot and walked it back into town so we could all see it's real.
Holding hands.
Because I couldn't kill it. I would not be able to kill it. There's no way. I would really want to prove they're real, but I would not be able to like shoot one and drag it back to town. So,
like the movie Harry and the Hendersons?
Yeah, I couldn't do that.
Like bring it home?
I couldn't do it. Well, hell, even over there, not exactly in Plains, Georgia that we were just talking about, but I know that area of Georgia has a lot of Bigfoot sightings as well.
Yes. Yes.
You guys.
It's very rural over there, just like West Virginia. So a lot of hiding places.
So where do you stand on the Bigfoot? Is
Bigfoot I definitely think it. I'm with you. I'm with you on that, Tim. I think they definitely exist.
Yeah.
I think the question on interdimensional probably is on the right track because it seems like they kind of glitch in and out, so to speak, and nobody can really ever see them leave. It's like they just disappear. It's like, where do they go?
See, I always push back. I always push back on that because. And by the way, like this is the fun part of this. Even though we can disagree, the reality is nobody really fucking knows. So it's like, who knows? But yeah, I've heard a lot of that, especially in the last couple of years. They started calling it the woo movement or something in the Bigfoot community, where they wanted to Bigfoot has the ability to make itself go invisible. There's people that think that this is real, by the way, that apparently there is a sword out there that can control all Bigfoot's big feet. I don't know the right word. There's a lot of these crazy things out there, and I'm not trying to make fun of these people. I am very certain that they could look at some of my beliefs and be like, that guy's a crazy person. But it's just hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that there are people out there that believe that there is a carbon-based life form that can, make itself invisible, that there's a sword that controls it. And I'm sure you've heard some of these crazy stories too.
I have.
And it's kind of discouraging because for somebody like me, and by the way, I could be wrong, I think it's just like a deer or a bear. Like it's just another animal. Now, of course, I do believe it has higher intelligence, all the things associated with, maybe like a subspecies of humans. I don't even know what it would be. Like I'm not saying it's as dumb as a deer, or anything like that. But I think it's just a normal animal going about its life, doing its best to avoid people. And we all see why it would want to avoid people.
I think that's stuck.
Yeah, just want to get shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think because of their higher intelligence, I do think that, they probably are, and I know I might sound a little crazy here, but I don't want to say like an advanced civilization. That's not the right word. But I do believe that like they have like real social structure. I believe that, they have culture. I do believe that. But at the end of the day, they're still an animal. But this stuff, and maybe you're right. I don't know. Maybe they're interdimensional. I don't know. But it's like, okay, you can figure out how to move between dimensions, but you can't figure out clothes yet, kind of thing. And so that's kind of where I sit with it all. But have you had an encounter with Sasquatch or any of these?
I have not. No, I can't really say that I have. I wish I had.
Right.
I've gone Bigfoot hunting a few times, and it was really actually kind of fun. I had something strange happen when I was a child, but I'm not going to go out on a limb and say it was definitely a Bigfoot because I don't know. But I was out in the woods with my best friend. We were on a four-wheeler going through the woods, and we were actually in that area that you're speaking of. And we heard something growl. We looked over. We thought we saw something. We didn't know if it was a bear or what exactly it was. I don't know. I mean, I was 13, 14 years old at the time. And so, who knows what it was. But I have some friends that have had, barefoot sightings, Bigfoot sightings and things like that. But I can't really say that I have. I don't know. I just think it's interesting. I think, if they are the higher beings, which I think they probably are, they would have a higher vibration. So kind of like Wi-Fi. I mean, it goes through walls. So who's to say that it doesn't go through dimensions, things like that. So who knows? Well,
I think that over the next couple of years, we're probably going to have a lot more answers to the Bigfoot question than probably any of these other, the ghost thing. I don't think we're ever going to figure out, which is exciting. UFOs, I think we will eventually figure out what is going on, but that's going to take longer. I truly think in the next 10 years, we're going to find out that Bigfoot is a real species. That's why I retired, by the way. I'm going to go look for Bigfoot. No, I had two encounters, and by the way, both times I'm not claiming that it was a Bigfoot. But if it wasn't, I don't know what it was. The first one, a long story as short as I can make it, I was driving down I-95 when I was living in Savannah, Georgia. I was going back home from Pennsylvania. And it was like 3 a.m. I rounded a bend. Off in the distance, there was a tall shadow that kind of went down. And it was the part of I-95 where, like, the middle of the highway almost looked like a miniature woods. And as I got close to it, where I thought it was, I slowed down, and all I saw was it was like half of a forearm up to the end of the fingers because it was gripping the guardrail, like it was on the other side of the guardrail and like holding on, like dipping down into the guardrail like this. So all I saw was this up to here. But I'm telling you, it was the reddish brown fur. This part of the hand was bare. I saw the fucking fingernails. And as somebody, this is the weirdest part for me. I've been obsessed with this idea of Bigfoot since I was a little kid. I saw that, and it took like 10 minutes for my brain to click. Like it was almost like a trauma. Mm-hmm. Like I was seeing something that I know makes no sense, and I shouldn't be seeing this, even though I think it really took like 10 minutes for my brain to be like, holy shit, I think that might have been a fucking Bigfoot. And so I called my mom like 2:33 in the morning. I was like, Mom, I think I saw a Bigfoot. I added 2 hours of my trip, looping back to see if I can find it. Maybe there's footprints or something, but there was nothing there. That was my first experience. And then the second one was in Washington, where that thing was following us along the path. and then it was doing wood knocks and it ran at us. Like I have it all on video on my phone. There was one point where I kind of, because we were like in a path, it was in Washington State, and we were in a path that was kind of sunken, so we really couldn't see the woods themselves. So you kind of had to climb up the bank a little bit to see what was following us. And at one point, at this point, I didn't know if it was a mountain lion, I didn't know if it was a bear. So I kind of did like the periscope move where I was like, oh, all right, what's up here? And I didn't see it when I was recording, but when we watched it back, there is a black figure, standing in the woods back there.
I would never go into the woods again.
And then at the end, you hear the wood knocks, which, is very characteristic of, Bigfoot behavior and stuff like that. No. So I am convinced that they have to be real. So, when you're doing your research into this, how do you find people that want to tell their stories? I mean, Bigfoot is a perfect example of this. Growing up in the woods of Pennsylvania, I know way more people who have had an encounter with Bigfoot than have not. But you would never know that. Because once again, the only people that you hear about are those crackheads that look good on TV when they're, because those producers for those shows have an agenda. They're trying to make Bigfoot people look stupid. That's why they're putting those people on. But if they would actually take the time and do what you're doing, it would add so much more validity to all this. So how do you find these people, and how do you get them to come forward with their stories without fear of ridicule or anything like that?
Well, fortunately, I'm lucky to have people come to me.
Oh, good.
And I get emails, I get, DMs on Instagram. And so I get quite a few submissions every single week. And so, we go through those and we kind of weed out the ones that we think maybe aren't quite as legit or questionable, if you will, and really focus on the stories and the reports that we get that we feel adds to the educational aspect of the magazine, plus the entertainment value. If somebody sends us, a submission that just sounds a little sketchy, we usually don't publish those. But we've been really lucky. We have a lot of people that not only read the magazine but follow us, and so they submit. And sometimes we'll have somebody say, hey, we want to submit the story, but we don't want our name attached. Can you, present it in a way that is in like a story setting, but not have any details that would lead back to us? And so we do that as well. But most of the time, people are either paranormal investigators, and we have a couple of teams that we work with regularly, and they'll submit stuff to us. But it's been great. I mean, if any of your listeners want to submit their story for consideration, they can just go to ParaHouseMagazine.com and get that.
So the idea behind the magazine is that you're taking stories that people are sending to you, and you receive the story, you do some investigating on your own, and then you turn it into a story that goes into the magazine. Is that kind of how this works for you, or? Yeah.
We I'll just give you an example. This is our newest magazine. Just came out this week.
Right. And
each magazine we have a theme. Mm-hmm. So this one happens to be the world of macabre. So we talk a lot about like cemeteries, haunted cemeteries, things like that. Okay. The one that we had last time, our issue that was last time, it was all about vampires. So we did a whole thing on vampires. In fact, we did a feature article on you guys of New Orleans and some of the ghost tours that you did.
Right. Well, thank you.
And yeah, that's fine. And it was really neat because a lot of people are really interested in vampires, but they don't always know the history. Mm-hmm. And we partnered up with Vampa Museum, which is up in the Philadelphia area. And that was the gentleman that was on the cover. He's the owner of Vampa Museum. And they gave us a lot of information, which was really, really interesting on the history. And oh my gosh, he's got some artifacts that are like to die for. He's got some really neat things. So each issue revolves around kind of a common thread of a theme. Now we'll also add, some UFO stories and things like that as well in every single issue, but we try to do a theme with each one. So the current one, the May-June issue, we're almost sold out, but it's the macabre issue, and it talks about cemeteries, and we do have some haunted doll things in there.
I think that a magazine like yours, one, I know for a long time, and in a lot of regards, this whole idea of print is dead, like kind of a thing. But I think we're kind of getting back to the point where people want to start I want to hold it again. I don't want to flip through a magazine on a Kindle or any of this other stuff. I want to hold the magazine. Like that's why I have all those books in my house. I don't own any books on Kindle. So I think what you're doing is great with the magazine and stuff. And I do think that as people start to get tired of this sterile world we have where everything's on a screen, I think that people are really going to be like, I want the actual magazine again. And for somebody like me that I'm interested in this stuff, but I don't know everything, I think that would be a great opportunity for me to kind of expand my horizons or my knowledge. Like, for example, vampires. The only thing I know about vampires, I learned on What We Do in the Shadows, which is, by the way, one of the best TV shows of all time. Have you ever seen What We Do in the Shadows? Has anybody? James, have you seen it? I was going to say, James have had to have seen it. Have you seen it? What We Do in the Shadows? So
I haven't.
It's actually a parody, I guess you would call it. They're pretending it's a documentary crew following around a quote unquote family of vampires in Brooklyn or Long Island. And like their shenanigans, like interacting with the human world. So it's like a comedy. It's not to be taken seriously, but it's a brilliant show. So yeah, I would love to, let's learn more about vampires and stuff like that.
Where do you see yourself taking your magazine next, and what kinds of things do you want to continue to incorporate in it?
Hey, Stephanie, thanks for contributing.
Hey, no problems. Here from the Peanut Gallery.
Oh my gosh. Well, certainly brand collaborations is something that we are doing a lot of in 2025. We have partnered with Paraflix streaming network. We are the official magazine for Paraflix streaming network. Ghost City Tours, we've obviously collaborated with you on some clothing, and we have some other things that are possibly going to be in the works for this year. We do have some more exciting collaborations. I can't go into too many details because it has not been released yet, but I will say it will be coming out on June 13th, which is Friday the 13th. And this particular item that we're collaborating on will be sitting in a haunted place for 13 days and 13 nights. And you'll just have to stay tuned and go on our Instagram to find out some more information on that. But it's going to be very, very neat. Unlike anything that's on the market, it's going to be a huge collaboration that ParaHouse is doing with another company. It's actually another female-owned company, which is kind of cool.
Right.
So yeah, we're expanding. We're doing a lot of brand collaborations. So we're expanding the ParaHouse brand in that way, actually making it more interactive with our readers and with our fans. We will continue to expand the print magazine. It's a limited edition magazine each and every time, which makes the scarcity factor really cool. We always put in a unique trading card into every magazine for free. It's a free gift, but it's only limited to the first 100 customers that order. So that's always a neat thing. And a lot of our fans are collecting those trading cards. And so, yeah, we're just always evolving and expanding the idea of what ParaHouse could be. It's exciting. I mean, 2025 has been an unbelievable year for us already. And so I'm just kind of looking forward to the second half of 2025.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the second half of 2025. The first half of 2025 has not materialized the way that I thought it was going to. And I keep telling myself, well, you got a new president. It's going to take time, whatever, all this shit. But I'm like, all right, I'm definitely ready for the second half of 2025.
I've had the 3-month sample.
Oh, yeah? That's all right. So do you have a podcast that you do for ParaHouse, or do you?
I do not. No, not at the moment. No, not at the moment. Honestly, we have so many fires going on that it's like, oh my gosh, there's only so many hours in the day. Because I also own BMK Publishing, which is my own publishing company. We have eight other authors that we publish and represent. We publish 2 magazines, 2 newspapers, and all these authors. Plus, I'm an author myself. I'm out in the process of writing 4 more books myself.
Geez. So you already have books out there.
I do.
So what are the books that you've written?
I have written some fictional and non-fictional books.
Okay.
One of the ones I have, which is nonfiction, and so it'd be totally educational. It's called Tap into Universal Energy.
Okay.
And in that, I'm talking about how time and space do not exist and how you can raise your consciousness, raise your vibration. And I co-authored that with 2 other authors, Kevin Briggs and Edgar Yo. And then I have some fictional stories. I have one that's called Blood of the Kingdom, and it dives into Rh negative blood types and witchcraft and aliens.
Oh,
I'm here for this.
yeah, I don't know.
That is me.
Yep. And I'm currently working
I'm
on
still not seeing the connection.
I knew that. Like, this makes me super special. The Rh negative factor. I knew it.
I'm glad you joined us today.
Are you Rh negative?
I am.
70?
Yeah.
Okay, so am I.
Yeah. I knew there was an alien connection in there.
So, all right. I didn't mean to go down this rabbit hole, but now I need to know what the hell is Rh negative blood, aliens, and what? Godzilla? What?
Godzilla. Yes, Godzilla comes in play too.
No, what were the 3? The connection?
Oh, okay. So UFOs, Rh negative, and witchcraft or magic.
Okay, so I can kind of maybe see the connection between the blood and witchcraft, because maybe witches are using in witchcraft, but I am not seeing the connection between all 3 of those. I'm assuming that's in the story.
Oh, absolutely.
See, I'm in my head. I'm like, I need to know what the connection is right now. Like, this is going to drive me batty.
I've done more medical research on the side of the Rh negative, and from that I have touched into the alien connection to it. Simply by the medical connection.
Somebody tell me what the connection is.
It's because it's like a rare, it's pretty rare to have, like, not necessarily rare.
So
it's like less than a third, probably less than a third of the population is Rh negative.
Oh, it's even less than that. It used to be 15%. Now it's down to 8% of the world. Only 8%, but that number is even dwindling faster. They're saying within the next 5 years, it's probably only going to be 5%. Because what happens is when you have an Rh negative mother, and she has a baby with a guy that is positive. Okay. Usually the Rh positive takes over the Rh negative. So therefore you have Rh positive children. That was my case. I only have 1 child. She's Rh positive. So my bloodline just ended with me.
Mine does as well.
So, and by the way, you don't know me that well. Stephanie does. I promise I'm not making fun of any of this. Mm-hmm. So is it like, if you have that, like, you're an alien or you came from aliens? Like,
no,
I'm still not understanding what the connection.
There's some like weird. I can't remember now. It's been a couple of years since I dug into it.
Okay, well, I've studied it, and it's not.
Because I know nothing about this, but I know nothing about this. By the way,
that's fine. The Rh negative is not found anywhere on this earth except for the few people that have it. It is not typical of humans. It's atypical. All
right, this is really going to illustrate my ignorance here. So is this like in addition to like A positive, O negative, or is this like a secondary fact? Like,
no, it's AB negative, A negative, O negative. We do not have the rhesus protein in our blood. All the other humans do have the Rh factor in their blood type. So a lot of research has traced the bloodline back to the Anunnaki. Anunnaki were extraterrestrial.
I bet I'm that. That might explain these superpowers that I've been uncovering.
That means I have them too. I just haven't uncovered mine yet.
You have to get with a mentor and have them help you uncover your powers.
Glad we have the next year here.
I mean, I'm only kind of joking, like because I don't know much about this, but.
And there's another interesting fun fact if you guys want to dive into the rabbit hole with me.
I love rabbit holes.
This is a big rabbit hole, so get your tea out because it's going to be fun. Did you know that every U.S. president is Rh negative?
I smell a conspiracy.
Every president.
Okay, so now I'm taking this a step further. Our presidents are all aliens being controlled through their Rh negative blood. So aliens are sending
the British royal family's all Rh negative too.
Well,
Einstein was Rh negative. Tesla was Rh negative.
Well, then I have to be Rh negative.
I would.
Because if I'm not, I'm going to really I feel like I'm not going to be in the club.
I mean, I only know because of my first pregnancy.
Right.
That's how I found out.
You had to have ROGAM shots, didn't you?
And with the giant needle.
Right. Oh, I know. But
and you can't sit for a couple hours after that.
And I even question if we should have even taken that, by the way. I don't know what that did to us, but yeah. So Rh negative people, they're highly intuitive. Psychic abilities are very common. There's a lot of diseases and things that we don't get that the Rh positive do get.
Okay.
There's a lot of interesting physiological differences in the two. It's a fascinating subject when you dive into it. It's really neat.
Well, especially the idea that essentially the population that has that would essentially be cut in half every generation, right? At least.
Yes, that's right.
So then it's like, okay, there's no way that could have existed like back in the day, like hundreds of thousands of years ago in our blood, because if so, it would already been wiped out with very few exceptions, kind of like albinos or something, right? Like, so that would suggest maybe that was introduced as a blood type much earlier or more recent than the other blood types. Right? Mm-hmm.
It's like a recessive thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it strict recessive?
It would have to be. It
sounds like incomplete dominant.
Because none of my children are negative.
So is your mom or your dad, Stephanie?
I would guess my father's side.
Yeah, same here. My father was Rh negative.
I'm not sure if I guess my dad is, but I don't even know if he would know, because again, it's something that I wouldn't have known had I not gotten pregnant. So.
Well, aren't you glad you had kids?
Yep. Had the shot 5 times.
So where do you find the time to do all this? You know, you're writing books, you got all the magazine, all this stuff. Do you not sleep, or what's going on here?
No, she's Rh negative.
That's true. Superpowers.
I really don't. I really don't. I only require about 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night. So the rest of the time I'm writing or something.
Well,
like
some of those nights you're not sleeping because, you told me before we started that you still do paranormal investigations yourself, which I'm assuming means that there's some nights where you're going out and looking for the things that go bump in the night, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So fill us in, like where have you done some recent investigations? What are some of the favorite locations that you've ever done? Let's dive into this a little bit if you have time.
Well, definitely the investigations in Plains, Georgia. Mm-hmm. That has to be right up there with the best of them. I would say there's a cemetery down here in Florida. It's in Davenport, Florida. And I was out with some other paranormal investigators, and it was actually during the daylight. It was, about 4:30, 5 o'clock, something like that. And we were just out there. We had all of our equipment. We had the EMF readers. We had all that stuff. And we were picking up a lot of activity around some of the children's graves. Mm-hmm. And that was pretty active. That was a pretty active site. And it hadn't been really investigated too heavily because it's kind of off the beaten path and not a lot of people know about it. So that was another local location. Sometimes though, I'll pick up on things and I don't have any equipment with me, but I just, I can feel the hair on my arms or something, stand up, or I just have that eerie presence around me, like, oh my gosh, what was that? Did you feel that, or did you see that, or did you hear that? And I got that a lot up in Williamsburg,
Virginia.
Williamsburg, Virginia. I never went on any ghost tours, or never did any actual paranormal equipment, up there, but I could feel lots of activity. So now that I have a lot more knowledge and a lot more educated on the subject, I would love to go back there and really do a full-on investigation, because I think that's a fascinating place. I love the history and I love combining history with the paranormal. I think it's such a great combination.
Where you're at in Florida, is it northern Florida or is it
I'm in the Orlando area.
Okay. Well, it's not too far. So if you want a really good place to investigate, that's not too far from where you're at. I mean, it's definitely a couple hours drive. It's right outside of Chattanooga, Tennessee. It's the one I always recommend to everybody in the Southwest. It's called Old South Pittsburgh Hospital. I don't know if you've heard of it or not.
I have heard of it, yes.
So I used to manage Old South Pittsburgh Hospital back in the day, before the owner took over and then eventually lost it because he was a dumbass. But this guy, Ronnie, has it now, and he's taking really good care of it. But I mean, we would go there for, the night. We would drive up from Savannah. There was one point we spent the night there every night for 2 weeks. Out of all the locations we've been to, and we've been to a lot, that was the most haunted location I've ever been to. And there's not even a close second. And I've been to all the ones on TV, Bobby Mackey's, Mansfield, all this stuff. They're very haunted, not as haunted as Old South Pittsburgh. So if you ever get a chance to, you want to drive a couple hours and investigate that place, you will not walk away disappointed. I promise.
Wow, that's cool. You actually made me think of a place I had forgotten until you just said that. El Rancho, the hotel in New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, I've stayed there.
Right.
And I did not know it was haunted actually when I stayed there, but I felt it.
Yeah, you don't know it's haunted until you do.
Oh my gosh, yeah, exactly. And I mean, I had so much anxiety, and it was awful.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband and I were like, this place is really creeping us both out. And so there was a really sweet Native American guy that was working the front desk, and it was 4 a.m. And I went down there, and I had already spoken to him like a few hours before. And so I already had a nice repertoire with him. And so I went and talked to him. I was like, okay, I don't know what's up with this room, but I am feeling just anxiety. And I'm not even an anxious person. I'm actually very cool, calm, and collective. And I was like, what is up with this place? I'm like, I can't sleep. I'm having nightmares. I'm all that. So he goes, oh, well, that's because next door somebody committed suicide. I was like, oh, great.
He would be like, on what side? And he's like, both.
Yeah. And I saw the guys from Ghost Adventures actually had done an investigation at that exact hotel, but I didn't know that till after the fact. And I was like, oh, okay, well, great. I didn't know that at the time, but yeah. So there's a lot of places, but I'm going to tell you, Plains is right up there.
Yeah.
Plains is right up there. Oh, well, yeah.
And that's one of the things I've always that continues to pull me back in when it comes to this, ghosts and hauntings and everything like that, is that, the moment that you think that you know all the cool locations or you've heard all the good ghost stories, you'll come across a place like Plains, which honestly, I mean, obviously I knew what that was because of the Carter connection, but I had no idea. You're sitting here telling me you're ghost hunting on the Carter residence and doing all this. I would have had no idea that any of this stuff was going on there. So now it opens up this whole thing where even in my head, I'm like, I need to find a book on this. I need to know everything about it. Mm-hmm. We'll save that for another day, but
yeah, it's really neat. Well, they have a lot of old original buildings in the town and everything, and the hotel that they have there. It's a small little hotel. It's real cute though. It's a former funeral parlor. Do I need to say any more?
Right, exactly.
It's really haunted as well. But the Plains Haunted House, it's the Rylander house. And the Rylander family used to own that. And Mr. Rylander, I was told by one of the Carter family members, he actually committed suicide, hung himself in one of the rooms, which is the room that I got the most activity. I was actually being kicked and pushed around. And I'm not a little girl. And to push me around, that actually says a lot.
Right.
And so it was aggressive. It was an aggressive type of interaction. And what I was told is that there had been some not so nice groups go through there and kind of antagonize the spirits, which that really drives me crazy too, because that's disrespectful and it's just not the right intention. When I go into a place, I'm there to talk to them and not antagonize them, not edge them on or anything like that. And I'm like, use me as a conduit to speak if you need to, or if you need to, let us know something that's going on that maybe we don't know about, that kind of thing. I mean, very chill, very calm. But apparently there had been a lot of activity of people sneaking into the house and doing all kinds of bad stuff.
Yeah.
And stirred things up. And but yeah, you definitely should make your way up to Plains because you will not be disappointed.
You never know. Now that I'm retired. Wait, no, I'm not
trip.
retired. I actually just took a new position at Ghost City Tours. Did you hear about this?
Yes.
I got hired back.
We're still waiting for the background check to come back.
I can tell your face. You're like, are they just, no, this is real. We're back. Yay. Well, you know, we've been talking here for a while and I don't want to keep you too much longer, but there is one other thing that I wanted to talk about. You mentioned earlier that one of the things that your magazine covers are these haunted dolls. And as you mentioned, we've got probably the most famous haunted doll in the world coming to our store for a couple of days. I'm willing to bet you know more about the Annabelle story and the Warrens and all that kind of stuff than I do. So can you tell us, like, what are we in store for? Is it true that our store is going to burn to the ground and all this other crazy stuff that we're hearing?
I don't think it's going to burn to the ground. I don't think you have to worry about that. But yeah, there's definitely some activity around Annabelle, and there's some other really famous dolls as well that have some spirits connected or energy connected to it. One thing, you know, I'm not scared of anything because everything's just energy. Okay, right. You've got everything's energy. Your energy, I'm energy, the computer's energy, everything's energy. And so what happens is, and this is my own theory, but I think what happens is take a doll and a child usually is attached to a doll. They hug it, they sleep with it, they talk to it, they play with it. And if there was a tragic death with that child, let's say, then sometimes what happens is their energy, their spirit, their ghost, whatever word you want to use, may become attached to that doll, for instance. And when that happens, it becomes charged, right? That doll becomes charged.
Okay.
It could be negative. It could be positive because energy is either negative or positive. It's just like a battery. You got to have a negative and a positive. And you have to have equal. You have to have dark. You have to have light in order to have balance. Right. Positive, negative, you have to have balance. So since everything is just energy, then you might say that doll has a lot of energy around it. And it may, in fact, impact people. If you're really a highly sensitive person to energy changes, frequency changes, it may affect you.
Right.
Some people are oblivious to it and are clueless, have no idea what's going on. But those of us that are a little more sensitive to that could pick up on the energy. I think sometimes people make things up in their head. I think sometimes, you know, they fantasize about something bad happened with it, you know, with this doll, and they therefore create the reality. I mean, our mind is a powerful thing, so you can create the reality of something bad happening. You know, it's an interesting subject. It really, really is, because dolls are one of those things that they represent a human, right? So they've got that energy of a human, so to speak. And then you've got the energy of the person that owned that doll. And if that person had a tragic death or they just passed, whichever, doesn't have to always be tragic, they may still have some attachment to that doll in the afterlife. And I don't know, maybe they come back and they visit it or what have you. And there's been a lot of speculation around that. And you could even take some EMF readers and possibly go around Annabelle and see what kind of energy you guys get off of it. See if it spikes.
Well, I think one of the things, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know if it's unique to this Annabelle doll, but I think one of the things that stands out is that isn't it said to be possessed by like a demon or something like that?
Yeah.
Isn't it
yeah,
that the deal with that?
I've heard that. I mean, I don't know if I would attach the word demon to anything, just because it's got such a negative connotation. A lot of drama has been drawn up around the word demon.
Right.
To me, it's just a negative energy. I don't know that we have to personify it as a demon or not, but
right.
To each their own. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. But I think when you take an object and you concentrate so much energy on it, so much negative energy on it, you create a negative entity. You create like a poltergeist, if you will. You create so much negative energy around that subject that it actually becomes that.
By the way, that's how I'm going to tell little kids babies are made going forward. Yeah, it absolutely makes sense. Yeah, no, I totally get it. But I do think that'd be great. Daddy, where do babies come from? That's what I'm going to tell them. Well, see, when you take all this negative energy and you put it together, and then you get this, and you get this thing, and that's how you came into the world. You know, all right. Well, like I said, we've been doing this for a while, and I know, we all have other things to do. So, for people that are listening in, of course, we'll make sure this is all in the show notes and everything else, but where can people find out more about you and what you have going on?
Definitely look us up on Instagram. That's our number one platform on social media. ParaHouse Magazine. We've got the little blue verified check mark, so you know it's us.
It's official.
You can also look up me, which is Melisa Kennedy. I also have the blue verified check, so you know that's me.
Right.
You could go to our website, ParaHouseMagazine.com, and find us on there. And definitely you want to, subscribe and get one of our wonderful print magazines. They're great. They're really right up your alley for your audience.
Yeah,
so
I absolutely encourage it. That means we're at the end of the show, folks. So we'll definitely send people your way. I'm also very excited to see how our initial collaboration goes. I think we're going to learn a lot from doing it. That way, next time when we do it, we have better data, and it'll be, very successful. We'll just keep working together as long as it's beneficial to everybody, and we'll do some pretty cool stuff together. But
yeah, that sounds good.
Yay. All right. Well, I really do appreciate you stopping by. I know Stephanie does as well.
I do too.
Great.
So until next time, we really appreciate it. And everybody go check her out. Thanks again.
Thanks for having me.
I will talk to you soon.
Yep.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
This episode was brought to you by Ghost City Tours, your guide to the haunted side of history in over 25 cities nationwide. From restless spirits to unsolved mysteries, our tours bring the dead back to life. Book now for a haunted city near you at ghostcitytours.com.